Good afternoon, everyone. As Beatrice said, I am Habibeh Khoshbouei. People call me Dr. K, Habibeh, because saying my first and last name is rather difficult. As she said, I born and raised in Iran. I moved to United States in 1992. And from then until now, I've been studying and doing research. So today, I'm going to give you about between 18 to 20 minutes talk about big picture of what I'm doing at the lab and why I'm doing it. And the last 40 minutes, I'll tell you my passion about my work and my research and how I get here. And if you have any question, you can stop me during the talk, and also during that 40 minutes, definitely please stop me and ask questions. And of course, I am always open to suggestions to improve myself, and that's one of the key for anyone who wants to succeed in life, no matter what you're doing. So I don't know why let's see. Okay, so in big picture, what we do in my lab, we study drug addiction. We study the cellular and molecular mechanism of drug addiction. But addiction is not a new story. It has been for ages. You basically have heard about drug addicts. In old ages, they put drug addicts in isolation, and they would take them to churches and they would pray for them. And also, over many years, as you know, drug addicts, they commit petty crimes and they put them in jail. Not only today, not only 10 years ago, 20, 30, and 40 years ago. So the society does not look at drug addicts favorably. Hopefully by the end of today, I will teach you, and you will agree with me that drug addiction is a biologically based disease. So we normally equate how a person gets to be addicted as equal to the drug addicts, the biological change that happen in the brain. So it might be a bad choice, environmental, genetic, that if you want to talk with me after this class or email me, we can talk about it. The genetic backgrounds that make us more prone to be addicted, and I have one slide that I can talk about that a little bit. So we equate this process and actual drug addiction. So in order to fight drug addiction, there are two ways to fight it. Fight the first part, epidemiological, genetic, and then also when a person is addicted, how to fix it. And putting people in jail or praying for them is good. Praying for everyone is good, but putting them in jail might not be the best option. So basically, a prolonged use of any drug, if you take cold medication, if you take antihypertensive medication, and if you take a drug of abuse, amphetamine, methamphetamine, cocaine, opioids, whatever you take, not you, anyone takes, it produces fundamental and long-lasting changes in the brain in the context of drug addiction, or a person who have hypertension. Or have you heard, if your grandmother, grandfather, or your father has hypertension, the very first thing that they give them is diuretic. After a while, diuretic doesn't work. Then they have to give them beta blocker. After a while, diuretic and beta blocker don't work. Then they gave them ACE inhibitor. And the majority of people who have, for example, hypertension, they take about up to 4. And no one goes, when they go to doctor, they're not embarrassed of, oh, this drug didn't work, because the biology is changing. It's very similar to that. Drug addiction is a chronic disease. So I'm going to bring a couple of examples. And every slide that I have put here at the bottom, I reference the paper or the place that I got I got those slides. So you're more than welcome. Feel free to go back and look at those primary literature. Hopefully, the information that I give you would be enough that I convey the message to you. So this is the brain on the left side. That side is the brain, my brain, or your brain, that we never abused cocaine. And methamphetamine, for example. This is the brain of a person who abused methamphetamine for a period of time, and this is 80 days, about 3 months after this person did not abuse methamphetamine. Do you see the changes? So this person is drug addict. this person has this compulsive drug-seeking behavior. This person steals the milk money of the kid, steal to go abuse drug to bring his or her reward balance a little bit high, based on close to normal level. They never reach the normal level. Another example is a person with that abuse cocaine. The top part is your brain and mine. You see, when we go under scan and they give us a compound that binds to a protein called dopamine transporter, our brain light up like that. So you would think about it, this in the middle row, this person did not use cocaine for 10 days. It's coming a little bit coming back. And look at this, 100 days after. So people who abuse drugs, drug of abuse, drug addiction, their brain change in a biologically based fashion. So this person is not a loser. This person is a drug addict. So my research is that I want to know what are the changes in this brain. Therefore, I can find a way to treat it. Of course, biological approach is fundamental, is very important, but of course cognitive behavior therapy, family support, psychological support, all of this has to be combined together. It's not just biology, it's not just my work. But the whole idea is that in the society, we consider these people losers. We consider these people, they don't have any will, they don't have any self-esteem, they are criminal, but actually they have chronic disease. So I always actually, about a month ago, I gave this lecture with more details to my class at the University of Florida, the graduate PhD students. I always put this slide, and the reason I put this slide for you is that I always start this slide with this sentence: I don't know what type of monkey I am, and I'll tell you why. So this study has been done in 1999. They got a bunch of monkeys, and they gave them ecstasy, MDMA, right? So, and then they looked at a protein called serotonin transporter in the cortex on top of their brain, right? And a group of monkeys didn't show much change, but a group of monkeys 2 weeks after, you see this protein in the cortex, their cortex, have changed. You see how significantly has changed. And guess what? They kept these monkeys, some of them. Of course, when you kill them, then you take the brain, then you cannot study them again. So they had the huge number of animals. So what they did, they kept a group of animals that received ecstasy for 7 years. Look how much it came back. So, of course, not all of the monkeys shown this, but I always tell my students, I don't know what type of monkeys I am. I do not abuse drugs. Actually, I haven't, ever. I've been too busy maybe, but the fact is that I never abuse drugs because I don't know what is my propensity. I don't know what is my sensitivity. So, of course, this person, people who abuse ecstasy, for example, some of them are going to end up like this. And these monkeys did not receive for many, many months. They actually have received 4 or 5 consecutive exposure to ecstasy, MDMA. And ecstasy and methamphetamine are 2 of the most known neurotoxic compounds. Does it kill everyone's neurons in this room? I don't think so, but our biology is different. That's what it makes us different. That makes us superb in different ways, but also we respond to drugs differently. Yes?
Sorry, I just want to make sure. So you said 7 years after recovering from that exposure?
After the 4 days of consecutive exposure. So they get this like 5 group of monkeys, group 1, group 2, group 3, 4, 5. So they gave ecstasy for 4 or 5 days to this group 1, and then they looked at their cortex. Okay, and because this is video recorded, I don't want to go to the detail of how they did. And then they group 2, what they did, they looked at them in 2 weeks later. Group 3, they did in 7 years later. Now, of course, they had in between. And I'm going to stop here and talk about you as citizens of this environment. This research was not being possible without you and your parents' taxpayer. And this is a very, very expensive study. So the fact is that NIH funding and research funding provide the opportunity for me to stand up and show you this results. And hopefully, when you see someone abuses ecstasy, you're not the one who try it, because you don't know what type of monkey you are. So in the society, when you think about it, in this room, everyone in this room, I am sure that you heard about methylphenidate. You probably heard it as a Ritalin, which is an amphetamine derivative. It's used for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and those people should receive it. But for us that we don't have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or narcolepsy, that methylphenidate is the drug of choice for that, and is prescribed in a pill. If they give us those, and we are healthy, they give us methylphenidate, some of us, we feel really good. Some of us, we feel maybe neutral. I would take it and I say, I didn't feel that good. It's okay. I didn't feel good or bad. It's okay. Some of us will feel really, really bad. Actually, that's a lot of people are not nicotine addict or nicotine smoker. Not because they didn't try, maybe they tried once, but it gave them anxiety, it gave them this like unpleasant experience. So these people, they took them on an MRI scan, and they found a certain receptors called dopamine receptors, D2 receptor, in their brain, in the brain region that involved in the reward. Actually, people who don't like methylphenidate IV, they have more of this dopamine. So are these people born with more dopamine receptor? We don't know, right? Do their environment make them to have more dopamine receptor, which are more resistant to drug addiction, for example, methylphenidate, amphetamine, or cocaine? We don't know. But we know that our biology, our basic genetic, the number of receptors and protein and chemical that exist in our brain determines how we respond to drug of abuse, determine how we can, if we can, or how we can get addicted. The slide that I didn't put here, but now I think I should talk about it, is that no matter how resistant we are, if we get exposed to alcohol too many times in the fashion that make us a drug addict, nicotine, cocaine, amphetamine, methamphetamine, opioids, we eventually get addicted. And this actually has been done in rats. Certain rats, they're like this. They don't like cocaine. But if you give them many days, those rats that they hated it, they start liking it. So my biology does not protect me forever, but it also gives me a chance of not liking, for example, IV methylphenidate. So the whole idea is that what I'm trying to tell you is that drug of abuse affect brain in a biologically based fashion. So, and our biology will determine if we feel a first time. I'm not talking about 100 times. If the first time, how do we feel about this abused drugs? Of course, if you abuse it for a long time, you will get addicted. Why? Because you start down-regulating, for example, your dopamine receptor in the brain, and then you adjust, and from there goes down the hill. So addiction, actually, if you heard about people who are alcoholics, and they go to Alcoholic Anonymous, they go to the treatment, their friends or their psychiatrists or psychologists, they tell them, do not go to the bar or in the area that you have been getting drunk. Because of that. So an example of, there are so many studies that I could put for you, but I thought I'm going to put this for you because this is really cool. So this is they show a nature video to a former cocaine addict. Nothing happened. But if they show paraphernalia of cocaine addiction, the needle, whatever they have been using it, the powder shape, whatever the cocaine addicts they use to abuse cocaine, and a certain brain region called amygdala light up, means that they do remember it. But again, we say they do remember it and amygdala light up, what that means that certain protein, certain chemical, certain receptor in the brain has changed. These are biology. So putting people in jail, praying for them, by itself, it's not. But these things by themselves are not going to be effective in treating drug addiction. First of all, I have to know what happened in, for example, amygdala or the reward pathway. That's the biology part of it. If I understand it, then I can help people to get better and help drug improvement or reversal of drug addiction. So this, as I told you many times, drug addiction is a chronic disease. It's that the relapse is actually very similar to what I told you, hypertension, diabetes, or asthma. So studies actually has been shown drug addicts, when they go through the treatment, about 40 to 60% they have relapse, right? And these are the people society call them losers. But we never call a person who has asthma a loser, because we consider these asthma, hypertension, diabetics, we consider them, these are biologically, we say these people are sick, we need to help them. But we never think about a drug addict. So that's part of my mission, to convey this to you and my other students, that yes, how we get there to be addicted is different than now the brain of a drug addict is a chronic disease, is a biological based disease. So I just talked about this. So I am going to the next, I think 5-6 slides, a few slides about the actual work that we have done at my lab. Last year I gave it much more extensive. I thought I overwhelmed people, so I kind of summarized it a little bit better with the hope that you remember. At my lab we study the addiction to methamphetamine. So methamphetamine, cocaine, amphetamine, they target a chemical in the brain called dopamine. Dopamine, when we eat, when we drink, during the nurturing, pleasurable response, dopamine releases in the brain. But why methamphetamine addicts, when you have all of these, and I got this for YouTube, I forgot to cite it, so know that it is from YouTube. This person have severe problem while abusing methamphetamine. Why this person keep abusing it, right? So because it's permanently changed the dopamine transmission in the brain. So in the brain neurons, like I move my hand or I feel very good after I have coffee, in my brain neurons are connected in an area called synapse. This is a presynaptic, the top one, presynaptic neurons, and this is the postsynaptic. The top one, if you see, I drew those red balls, dopamine is sequestered, it is stored in synaptic vesicles. Because I feel very good in a certain time. Hopefully I have this baseline good feeling, but when I eat sweet, then my dopamine will release it. That's why biology, nature actually designed this. So when a stimulation happened, what happened? This synaptic vesicle fuse with the synaptic terminal, and dopamine releases bind to the pre and postsynaptic neurons, right? And it's convey signals that I can move my hand, because dopamine, for example, is also involved in movement and in pleasurable responses. And this is involved in also movement and pleasurable responses, okay? But when a protein called dopamine transporter is responsible for vacuuming dopamine back into the presynaptic terminal, back in the synaptic vesicle, right? So the biology is designed. I'm not going to be really smiley and happy and jumping up and down all the time. I have these moments, dopamine releases, this protein vacuum dopamine back into the presynaptic terminal, is stored for the next pleasurable response, right? Or when I want to move my hands, for example. But when you have methamphetamine, for example, methamphetamine competes with this vacuuming of dopamine, goes in the presynaptic terminal. What it stays, dopamine stays outside. But what it does also, it disrupts the vesicular storage. It disrupts the storage of dopamine in these little packets. What it does, now dopamine is free in the presynaptic terminal. Methamphetamine also affects this protein, dopamine transporter. Now the protein actually, instead of vacuuming dopamine, what it does, it starts releasing the dopamine from inside to outside. And remember from the first slide, you had like 5 dopamines, now you have 5,000 dopamine. And that's why people, when abuse methamphetamine, the amount of dopamine outside is huge. So as a tidbit, I tell you that the difference between methamphetamine and cocaine is that methamphetamine is a substrate for this protein, dopamine transporter, but cocaine is block that. So cocaine blocks the vacuum, but methamphetamine, what it does, it competes with uptake of dopamine, and it also releases dopamine. And it releases dopamine for about 10 hours. Cocaine is about 30 minutes to 1 hour. Methamphetamine is about 8 to 10 hours. That's why methamphetamine addicts walk in the street, you can see them. But cocaine addicts, they can, at least for a while, they can hide it. So
excuse me,
yes.
Is that the high? Is that what they say when they
Yes.
get a high?
Every high that you see at the end point depends on the amount of dopamine outside, except some of morphine. Alcohol at the end increases dopamine. Nicotine at the end increases dopamine. Cocaine, methamphetamine, amphetamine, morphine increases dopamine. The only difference with morphine with the others is that it has a non-dopamine dependent effect. Because you're recording as someone sees it, I want to make sure that I'm correct. Yes?
Are those the D2 that you mentioned, the receptors?
Right there.
Those are D2.
D2 receptors and presynaptic, so they actually inhibit this neuron, right? Okay.
And I'm sorry,
Yes.
you said that cocaine blocks.
Cocaine blocks this protein called dopamine transporter.
Vacuuming, it just stays.
Yes, it stays there. Methamphetamine compete. So, for example, if there are 500 of us, we're going to go through that door, right? So these are 500 dopamine molecules. And someone comes that has a better affinity for that door, and it comes block the door, and it just go into that room. What we're going to say, all of us going to stay here. That's methamphetamine.
And that's the high of cocaine.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So this is, I have a few more slides. This is the study that we have done. And this is very extensive. It took us 3 years to do. I'm just showing you a snapshot of how the long-term consequence of methamphetamine exposure. What we did, we gave animals for 2 weeks methamphetamine, and then we looked at their short-term memory, and then we did electrophysiology. We looked at their long-term memory. And when we stopped the drug, then we continue to look at there is no drug here, here, or here. Then we start looking at the short-term memory. Right, cognition, right, and so we used something called novel object recognition. Us and rodent, we like new stuff, right, and that's what we did. So you can let the animals to acclimatize to the room, and then you can either change the location of the object or put a new object. So this is novel spatial location. This is novel object study. So I'm going to show you data about novel spatial recognition, which is test of memory, test of cognition. Okay. So basically, we will look at this is a normal. We say then a novel object recognition, the what it is, and the animals will remember, and the novel spatial study, it says, where was the object that I saw? Is a novel spatial location, NSR. So we did this study. Before that, remember, if you don't play, if you play with this more, or look at the new location, means that you remembered it, right? Therefore, you get a significant difference before and after, right? If you don't remember it, then there is no, you just play with them, the animal play with both objects and both locations at the same time, means that it didn't remember what is new, right? Is it clear? So look at that. 7 days after stopping methamphetamine, the animal doesn't know if it's a new place of the object, is a new object or an old object, doesn't know. You see that? Play with both of them similarly. 14 days after that, you see, still doesn't remember. And 21 days after that. And I calculated, I said, okay, my mice live about 3 years, human lives about 70, let's assume 75, right? And I calculated 21 days comparable to life of human is about 367 days or something. So this person is not a loser. This person is sick. So we shouldn't punish this individual for how the bad choices or environmental or genetic. We should treat this person as a person with a chronic disease. So this is a summary. Addiction is a biologically based and chronic disease. I hope that I could convey some of this idea to you. And I studied methamphetamine, and I know methamphetamine exposure produces a long-lasting effect in the brain. And specifically, I talk about it, the cognitive deficit. But of course, there are much more than this cognitive deficit. And if you go to PubMed, type my first and last name, you will see a lot of studies we have done about methamphetamine, of course, a lot of other very, very fabulous and smart scientists. So this is my lab, and this is my collaborator, and I invited my mentor for to honor her. Her name is Nancy Zenizer, and unfortunately she passed away last year, and we took a picture of everyone in my lab, and of course this is here Dr. Zenizer. And with that, I would be happy to answer any question.
Thank you.